In the long history of human beings, people have taken a lot of resources of the environment around us for survival and our own benefit. Today, humans are driving cars around, eating packaged and prepared food, and also buying the latest electronic gadgets. But we never think where all these things come from. We are using our limited natural resources and producing waste that pollutes the environment. Our action lead a lot of creatures into trouble. For example, coral reefs. Coral reefs are the largest living structures in the world, and they are also one of the oldest living ecosystems of our world, with some extinct structures dating from nearly 500 million years ago. They are located in shallow tropical waters within certain limited temperatures, salinity, and visibility. Although they cover less than 0.25% of world total ocean area, coral reefs are home for about 25% of all marine creatures. Coral reefs are also one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet, with an estimate of 600,000 to 9 million different plants and animals living there. Of 34 animal phyla known to exist, 32 phyla are found on reefs, and it is thought that only 10% of species living in coral reef have been discovered. Most coral reefs live in tropical waters. Most people will never get a chance to see them in person. So, what do the coral reef have to do with us? Coral reefs are one of the most important ecosystems in the world and benefit us in many ways. Coral reefs are natural protection for coastal cities and beaches. Coral reefs absorb 70% to 90% of energy produced by waves, with 2.2 billion people living within 100 kilometers of coastal line. The protection from storms are very important to us. For example, during the Asian tsunami in Sri Lanka, a marine park with better reef protection had waves of 2 to 3 meters high and damaged 50 meters inland. But 3 kilometers to the north, where there was less reef protection, the waves were 10 meters high and damage was 1.5 kilometers inland. Coral reefs provide food for billions of people. About 20% of animal protein consumed by humans globally comes from marine environment. In the Pacific Islands, as much as 90% of animal proteins come from the marine sources. In developing countries, about 25% of the total catch comes from coral reefs, providing food for about 1 billion people in Asia alone. Coral reefs also provide billions of dollars and jobs for more than 100 countries around the world, such as tourism, recreation, fishing, building materials, jewelry, and even medical products. As an example, in the Pacific Islands, fishing can earn 13% of GNP. In Florida, it is estimated that coral reefs contribute 1.6 billion USD every year from recreation uses. In the Caribbean, tourism is the largest kind of business, earning 9 billion USD, employing over 350,000 people and often providing over 50% of GNP. Globally, tourism generated by coastal ecosystem like coral reefs is estimated to be almost 10 billion USD. Coral reefs are one of the largest sources of new medicine to heal illness and disease. It is estimated that half of the potential medicines being currently explored are from the ocean, with only 100,000 species discovered so far. Among an estimated 1 to 2 million species, coral reefs are a vast storehouse of undiscovered molecular compounds. The first marine-derived drug was discovered in the 1960s in a Caribbean sea sponge and used to fight cancer. Since that time, other compounds have been discovered that fight cancer and virus cells, stop inflammation and pain, eat away at the outer shell of bacteria, help bone grafts, and slow the aging process. Some researchers argue that we are 300 to 400 times more likely to find new drugs in the ocean than on land. Finally, coral reefs provide a home for 25% of all marine life, and for animals that live nowhere else on Earth. Even though coral reefs are so important to us, they are still in danger. They are disappearing very fast every year, and soon they will be gone forever. Most of the threats they are facing are caused by humans, such as overexploitation, coastal development, inland pollution and erosion, marine-based pollution, and most seriously, climate change. Overexploitation includes overfishing and destructive fishing practices. Destructive fishing harms coral reefs the most and uses explosive, poisonous chemicals, trolling directly over reefs, and pounding on reefs to scare the fish into the nets. Coastal development includes both direct and indirect effects of building up human population centered too close to reef area. Direct effects include dredging of reefs for harbor and shipping channels, mining of corals for construction materials, dumping and landfills. Indirect effects include excess sediment from construction and runoff that prevents coral from getting enough sunlight, excess nutrients from sewages that can help to overdevelop algae that compete with coral, and all the excess activity that accompany larger population crossing over reef areas. Inland pollution and erosion include the harmful effects that runoff can have on the delicate environmental conditions that enable coral reefs to live. Sediment, pesticides, and sewage and pollution from human activities inland flow into rivers and are emptied into coastal water. Sediments block the sunlight from coral reefs. Pollutants can directly kill corals or promote algae to crowd out coral reefs' growth. And watersheds cleared of forests and plants result in erosion, which increase excess sediments and can increase freshwater flow into saltwater coastal areas, changing the salinity necessary for coral reefs to survive. Marine-based pollution include major oil spills, as well as garbage dumped into the ocean from passing ships. As with other pollutants, marine-based pollutants threaten the delicate balance of conditions that allow coral reefs to survive. Most seriously, climate change has become the biggest threat to coral reefs worldwide and includes rising ocean temperatures and acidities. In 1998 alone, a single warming event led to the death of 18% of the world's reefs. Some places lost 90 to 95% of their coral reefs. Reef-building corals exist in symbiosis with colorful single-celled algae called zooxanthellae that give corals sugar and amino acids produced from photosynthesis. In return, for the product of animal metabolism, including carbon dioxide. Rising temperatures causes the colorful zooxanthellae to absorb too much energy, destroying their protein and forcing zooxanthellae to leave the coral, resulting in coral's death. This process is called bleaching because of the loss of color related with the zooxanthellae algae. Rising acidities are caused by excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is absorbed by the oceans. When atmospheric carbon dioxide levels rise above 450 parts per million, the oceans will start to become too acidic for corals to be able to survive. Over the last 500 million years of Earth's history, carbon dioxide levels corresponded with each of the 5 mass extinction events we know. Today, carbon dioxide levels are higher than they have been for 20 million years. In 2009, in a joint statement from the Zoological Society of London, the Royal Society and the International Programme on the State of Ocean, scientists warned that by mid-century, extinction of coral reefs around the world would be unstoppable. In addition, the former chief scientist of the Australian Institute of Marine Science told the London Times the Great Barrier Reef will be over within 20 years or so. As a global community, if we don't do something right now, we will be looking at mass extinction and irreversible damage to the world ecosystem. The most important step to reversing coral reefs and environment damage is to educate. Only when we accept that a problem exists, we can start to explore ways to solve it. Today, many government and private organizations worldwide are working together to educate the public on this issue. In addition, scientists worldwide are trying to understand the issue better and working to find potential solutions. Education can raise the awareness of protecting the environment and saving coral reefs. There is no doubt that rising global temperatures and carbon dioxide levels are lethal to coral reefs. Humanity is at a crossroad with a simple choice to either act now or face an uncertain, potentially catastrophic future. In order to keep atmospheric carbon dioxide level below 450 parts per million, we will need steep and severe cuts in global emissions that are 80% below 1990 levels by 2050. This can only be achieved by reducing our need for fossil fuel that produce excess carbon dioxide and mobilizing greater efforts to conserve energy, recycle, and plant new trees. In order to measure change, a first step must be the research and creation of a global baseline map for coral reefs that can be updated and checked over time. Several organizations are working on these efforts today, including the Planetary Coral Reef Foundation and Reef Check. In addition, coastal development and management must be planned on a holistic basis, with enforcement where necessary. Links between impacts on the coast and watershed management, construction, respecting environment principle, economic incentive for conservation, waste management, and community involvement and education should be all part of maintaining and sustaining coastal zones. These principles were reflected in the Coral Principle, drafted in 2005 by the UNEP Asian Tsunami Disaster Task Force. Maintaining a sustainable source of food and business is also very important to help the preservation of coral reefs. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization outlines many principles in their conduct for responsible fishers, which offers guidelines for the elimination of destructive fishing practices, establishing no fishing areas, and developing sustainable management plans that are fully enforced. In addition, several international organizations like the International Ecotourism Society have advocated specific guidelines to minimize impact, provide direct financial benefits for conservation, and promote sustainable tourism, whose economies can help work to support the local ecosystems. Finally, there is growing evidence that reefs within marine protected areas recover faster from catastrophes than those that are unprotected. Reefs in Indian Ocean that were more remote tended to recover more quickly after the 1998 Beijing event. After the 2004 Asian tsunami in Thailand, reefs in the Mukho Shroon National Park saw damage limited to 10 to 50% of coral cover, and signs of coral regeneration were seen only a few months afterwards. Today, although 20% of reefs in the Caribbean Sea lie within MPAs, globally only 1.5% of reefs lie in areas where no fishing is permitted, and less than 0.1% are fully protected from exploitation and poaching. In addition, it is now estimated that 20 to 40% of reef must be completely protected to have a good chance of allowing the reef ecosystem as a whole to be conserved. Coral reefs are one of the oldest ecosystems in the world and have existed for hundreds of millions of years. But today, research shows us that the environment they live in is pushing them into danger and extinction. Since coral reefs are so important to us, we really need to act now, or otherwise we will only be left with tears.